Have you ever watched pro players in tournaments and felt inadequate? Are you feeling hopeless and lost with nowhere to go? Introducing Why I, and probably maybe you too, suck at Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. For the low cost of a few minutes, I'll give you questionable Age of Empires advice despite the fact that I am completely underqualified to do so. To prove my point, I sawed my elo in half. God, I wish that was only half my elo. Today's video is all about defending against pressure. When your opponent is in your face building siege workshops and causing mayhem with crossbows, what should you do? One way to go is to freak out, completely screw everything up, and promptly unplug your Wi-Fi router. Panicking is the worst thing to do. It'll lead to more mistakes, which puts you further into the hole.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm!
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Wait! Everybody calm down!
Your main goal when defending pressure is to minimize the damage you take, so relax and think about what you need to do. It's just a game after all.
And anyone that ever uses the excuse it's just a game is a horrible human being and is lazy. You're a lazy human being.
First off, you'll probably need to build a siege workshop. Mangonels of your own are the quickest and most effective way to counter enemy mangonels, rams, crossbowmen, and even monks if you get a lucky shot. A rule of thumb I use is if your opponent is making siege, you need siege. And if they're putting pressure on you without siege, just make a few of the great unit equalizers and problem solved. Then, start to think about how to counter your opponent's main army. For instance, if they have a lot of crossbowmen, make the great unit equalizer. For knights, the best strategy is probably monks, especially if they're also making siege, which can be converted with the redemption upgrade. It's also extremely important to watch your economy balance. Since you haven't invested into a large scary military, forward buildings, or upgrades, you'll probably have the economic advantage, as long as you minimize the damage you're taking.
No, that's a lot of damage!
Oh, great. That joke's back again. Anyways, make sure you keep your eye out for idle villagers and floating resources, and keep those town centers pumping out villagers, like T90 always says in every low elo legend video. Next, consider mining stone. It takes a while to mine stone for a castle, but if you get it up, it'll stop almost any castle age push dead in its tracks. And while going to stone isn't necessary to defend pressure, if you have a civ with a strong or even just decent unique unit, you might want to try going that way. Stone is also used in walls, which can buy you time or fend off raids coming from other areas. It's a precious resource for defending, just don't do it like this guy. Another extremely important thing to remember is to expand. This is the main reason most players die to aggressive pushes. Even if you don't take much damage, defending pressure can make it hard to expand your economy, which really matters because you might not have enough space for the farms or the production buildings you need. You might even run out of safe woodlines to chop from. If you're being pushed, try and build a town center on the opposite side of the pressure and spread out in that direction so you don't get stuck in the corner of the map. The final tip is to
Smash the like button!
Counterattack. Often, countering your opponent can get you out of sticky situations because it forces your opponent to go back for a second to deal with it. A precious second you can use to get a defensive castle up, prepare an army of counter units, wall up your front, and catch your breath. Not only does it buy you time, but it also disrupts your opponent's otherwise untouched economy. Countering can really help lift the pressure off, and it can give your army something to do if they aren't actually strong enough to help defend your base. Remember, idle military is just as bad as idle villagers. So, to recap, keep a cool head, a solid eco, expand where you can, and counterattack your opponent to stay alive. Building a castle is more or less a surefire way to stop any castle age push dead in its tracks, so send a few villagers to stone if you need to defend. And with that, you're ready to defend forward pressure in the castle age. Amazing learn.